The story begins as a mutant introduces himself and to the devastated world caused by mankind. It appears that because of a nuclear war that happened hundreds of years ago, due to this the world is now in ruins. Due to the war and devastation, mutants like the MC appeared at that exact moment. As time passes by, dawn, morning, dusk, and dawn again, he only stand firm watching the world slowly crumbling away. The world suddenly became silence of whispers of the wind, with their choice of only waiting to wait for the twilight, as no humans or living being are here anymore, with humanity mostly perishing, and even if they were to survive, he would struggle getting a girlfriend due to the lack of blind dates or dating apps in this world, leaving him stuck alone in this desolated world, although a sudden loud bang could be heard interrupting his thoughts. With a massive explosion, he imagines it to be another mutant going on a rampage, although curiosity got the best of him and decided to check it out. Upon arriving at the disturbance, a human female could be seen attacking the rampaging mutant. She harvested the mutant and its core, although she didn't seem to notice the MC watching him from a distance. This fated encounter made the MC shivers and tremble as the excitement flows in him, describing their encounter to be wonderful. His eyes couldn't believe as a human girl is standing in front of him. Although he tried getting her attention, they got interrupted as swarms of mutant beasts tried devouring them. Although they managed to evade the attacks, the MC ultimately defended her, shielding from the rampaging mutants. The human girl couldn't believe her eyes as the mutant MC is shielding her. She saw the situation as it's too much for him to handle, ultimately forming alliance in front of a common enemy. They attack simultaneously, hitting the rampaging mutant with their fists, being in accordance with one another, attacking swiftly. The fight ended with the monster's defeat, leaving the two in silence, facing each other. They converse as he politely asks her name, but also questioning her intentions out here. She reveals first time being here looking for food, although she questions his name, which he doesn't have one. With this in mind, she suggested naming him Miyutaru-Kun as a nickname for being a mutant, questioning if it's alright with him. Miyutaru trembles in excitement as it's the first time he ever received a name. He exclaims, being so happy, and ponders of not wasting the opportunity presented, as he never might get another chance. With not having any intentions of ending their fated encounter, he confronts her, confessing his love and asking to go out with the human girl named Rin. They stand in silence as he mustered up the courage. Although he is left with unfortunate disappointments, as Rin is nervous, being presented with a sudden confession like that she couldn't find an immediate answer, let alone coming from a mutant. He stood in silence as he suddenly became depressed, questioning her reason for rejecting him. Although as she seemingly went away, she suddenly came back, which Miyutaru questions her actions as she asks for his hands. She held his hands, giving him relief, exclaiming, having high hopes for him, waiting for him. She left, bidding farewell, which left Miyutaru to suddenly get ripped and jacked as it's revealed that Miyutaru-Kun is a massive virgin with no interaction with females for thousands of years, leaving him crackling his mutation and going out of control as his hands still froze. We cut short as somewhere far away from Miyutaru-Kun's territory inside a human colony, Rin could be seen sitting beside her mother, praying for her well-being as her mother is facing a disease, leaving her bedridden. She left her mother, bidding farewell as another day goes by where she has to work hard in nursing her mother. Meanwhile, back at Miyutaru, he's still pondering about the impure thoughts about Rin, imagining what it would be like if he has her as his girlfriend, although she can't seem to give him a kiss due to her becoming contaminated. This gets him excited, being shoved into the ceiling of his cave as he once again got excited just by thinking about her as a classic virgin. Although a sudden problem is present as he can't force her to take off the masks. Add to that he can't go into human settlements since he's a mutant. He ponders when such chance of meeting her again will occur. But a sudden visitation where Rin is shining, showing some affection towards Miyutaru. She greeted him, inviting him for lunch. Miyutaru stood still nervously, trying to calm his excitement down due to her cuteness. Although she suddenly exclaims if he's getting excited and hard again. Shortly after, Rin is leading the mutant away, Through the Grand Canyons, here a spotter and a sniper is seen talking about the mutant, which all along was talked about Rin. They observe the two as Miyutaru-Kun is happily singing skipping steps behind Rin. Meanwhile, the humans on top are describing the humanoid-type mutant is pretty rare nowadays, and it would sell for a lot. They suddenly ponders about Rin's life being isn't easy as her mother was contaminated, causing her to be bedridden and hospitalized. Due to this, Rin faced hardships of hunting mutants and doing hard labor, even undergoing human experimentation, making her physically and mentally so strong. Although seemingly the mutant behind her is in love with her, upon hearing this they freaked out as they are bothered by the mutant's affection towards Rin, not wanting to let Rin be taken away. They compose themselves, assuring the possibility of Rin falling in love with a mutant is slim. The other hunter apologizes for his impulsive words, suddenly getting ready to capture a mutant. Although they are in for a treat awaiting their fates. As they arrived at an open field, Rin ponders about her situation, apologetic towards Miyutaru as his fate is about to be met. As she was feeding him some food fed by her, she had no other choice as she needed to pay for her mother's surgery. Some distance from them, Rin is questioning his idea for a confession. But her words is heard by the hunters, pointing as that's their signal to act. Although Miyutaru suddenly exclaims, noticing something unusual. His words and demeanor suddenly changed, radiating anger, questioning if she's deceiving him, confronting her. As he exclaims, his sense of hearing is quite spectacular. He can concentrate hard enough, picking up a wide range of subtle sounds, especially with his surroundings. The surroundings suddenly felt heavy as the ground shakes and rattle, confusing the hunters with the sudden change in the environment. Miyutaru revealed hearing her so-called friends from a distance, and their conversation earlier. His sudden transformation became finished as he is filled with rage, exclaiming the thought of betrayal and their stories becoming painful. Their schemes being revealed made Miyutaru-Kun's mutant cells to go overdrive and transforming into a much more hellish beast than he was before. He suddenly keep exclaiming the words, pain awaiting a sudden rampage, as the hunters and Rin became worried about their well-being. His cells suddenly made him transform into a killing machine, pointing his attack stance towards them. The hunters is nervous, pondering if they should shoot or not, debating mid-battle if it's a trap or not. Miyutaru-Kun suddenly charges at them, dashing lightning fast as the hunters tried to protect Rin at all costs. His attack suddenly stopped at the right second as Rin was shielding herself. Miyutaru-Kun suddenly started pulling away, as his insides suddenly came out, trying to calm his mutant cells down, shocking everyone at the scene. Behind his mutant cells he peeked towards them. He shows a nervous panic state, greeting them, explaining that whenever he gets upset his mutant cells tend to act on their own. He sweats profusely as he clenches his mutant cells under control, trying to explain, overhearing their conversations earlier. He apologizes for Rin's mother, giving empathy towards her situation. He got a little angry for them deceiving him, although more than that he tries her best to comfort her, as it must have been really hard for Rin-Chan all this time, shouldering the burden all by herself. It also revealed the horrifying scene Miyutaru-Kun and everyone is facing as his body inside and out add to the mutant cells that is ripping apart from him, showcasing the author's great art style and passion for this manga. A hand suddenly reached out as Rin-Chan holds the mutant cells, comforting his cells and showing kindness as the cells wraps around her arms calmly. Miyutaru watches the scene unfolds as Rin-Chan is grateful while hugging his mutant cells. This scene made the other hunters cry, joining Rin as they hugged one another. He tried calming himself down, but he suddenly transformed back, full of horns and a half-built body, which Rin and the other hunters punched came to his body. The other hunters proposed playing some old-made card game popular in the wasteland. Miyutaru agreed as this will solve everything and put them at peace. But they suddenly get interrupted as a powerful wind came rushing to them, blowing the cards. They suddenly remembered as a storm barging in this afternoon on this area, which on a distance a disaster level could be seen from a distance. The hunters ultimately decided to go home fast, evading the storm. Although the transportation they took can only take 2 people, leaving her stranded, Rin ultimately decided to put the hunter friends ahead of her, asking them to go ahead as the storm is brewing closer and closer. The hunters feared she might not have the capacity to sustain her body at full speed running all the way. This made her ponder needing to just get things over with. She decided to ultimately stay behind, staying with Miyutaru's place, deeming it much safer, although she suddenly exclaims that he could score points with her giving him a good opportunity. She also suggested it's a good idea to be left alone, confusing Miyutaru with her words and intentions. Rin apologizes for suddenly pushing the sudden idea to Miyutari. Although he doesn't seem to mind, this left the hunters with no choice but to left as fast as they could, exclaiming in anger, warning him if he does anything to Rin they will sell him. He nervously agrees in putting her safety as a priority, also exclaiming to not harbor any evil intentions. Later that night at Miyutaru's place of residence, he welcomed her to his man cave, surprising Rin as it's properly furnished for a mutant. Although on the other hand, Miyutaru is panicking so much in his thoughts. As the storm rages on outside of his home, Rin is seen observing his humble home, as she never knew books ever existed. As Rin observed more, she suddenly pointed innocently to a hole in the ceiling, which put Miyutaru in a difficult position. Suddenly becoming nervous, he drips heavily with sweat as the hole is the representation of his excitement, fantasizing about her. His words also seemingly couldn't get out and explained the hole in the ceiling. He suddenly made an excuse that the hole in the ceiling is just the cause of a wild mutant walking in and causing the mysterious hole. Rin suddenly get the gist as a woman. Her intuition gave her an idea which she suddenly got closed as she whispered in his ears, revealing that he had a naughty fantasy about her, teasing him, causing his mutant cells to break. Miyutaru suddenly fantasizes about her even more, causing a sudden burst of excitement within him. His mutant cells suddenly spiked, causing horns to grow as he nervously denies her accusation, although Rin is correct about her intuition that Miyutaru is a huge virgin. This made her suddenly come up with a devious plan, being sure that he will fall in love with her, giving her a much better reward of a fighting power rather than selling him to make money. With this, she ultimately have more ways to earn money with him on her side. She suddenly called out to Miyutaru in a sweet voice. She pointed towards his bed, which she had the great idea of lying over and rolling on it, seemingly teasing him, spreading her scent, exclaiming that it smells like him. The idea of her being seductive made him lose control of his mutant cells, suddenly jumping in excitement and putting his head inside the pre-made hole in the ceiling. He used the excuse of deciding to stick in his head to not see her being so sweet and flirty. Not giving up on her intentions, she decided to take her jacket off, causing Miyutaru to suddenly burst out from bottom to top of the mountain, bursting his virgin cells through the roof. Miyutari exclaims, being too hot as he couldn't handle her flirty personality as he traversed through the atmosphere. Rin is left alone in the caves of Miyutaru, as she finds it difficult to have her way with Miyutaru, although a sudden bang could be heard echoing through the cave. Rin pinpointed the sound coming from the entrance. She ponders the situation, thinking if someone wander in during the storm. Rin suddenly is met face to face with a giant monstrous mutant looking down on her. The monster suddenly exclaims, announcing her anger, claiming the place belonging to her boyfriend, leaving Rin shocked. The mutant questions her identity, although it seems that Rin couldn't understand her, although the mutant seems to be really angry. Meanwhile, Miyutaru seems to have reached the far end of the atmosphere and near into space, exclaiming the wonderful sight and the calming atmosphere being up close to the moon. Back to the cave, the monster keeps describing Miyutaru as a humanoid type, thinking highly that her boyfriend has the quality of a king. She looks down on Rin as a lowly species like her shouldn't have any permissions to be allowed near him. Asking Rin to get out, Rin stands in fear, silently watching, but she seems to understand her words, although she could tell that the mutant monster is explaining some important things. The two stand silently freezing. Rin suddenly exclaims, "Who exactly is she talking about?" and pointing out his virginess. Rin's words made the mutant monster anxious as she apparently doesn't understand her words, only being able to understand simple human words. She ponders the words virgin, although she seems to misunderstood her words, suggesting virgin translates to emperor, pointing out her sense to understand that Miyutaru is an important being to exist. The scene suddenly escalates as she attacked Rin with full force, pushing her frail body against the wall. The mutant monster suddenly understood her intentions, labeling her as a woman who wants to have Miyutaru, which she doesn't agree with. Her anger suddenly made her transform into a demonic being, calling it as the unforgiving love rival form. In her human form, her fighting power tripled, exclaiming it's nothing compared to the previous blows she faced. Rin still couldn't understand her words, although she worried about the situation escalating, asking Miyutaru to come back quickly. On the other hand, Miyutaru is still falling from space, passing by some lovely mutant birds along his way. With great speed and a high altitude of fall, he is seen as a shooting star falling down, almost landing back to the caves, where Rin and the female mutant is taking a fight stance. Seemingly the mutant monster got behind her, putting Rin immediately in a vulnerable situation as she tries to fight back with her fist. This already made her exhausted. Being caught in a sudden snap of her mutant cells, her entire face became a wreck, shattering the glasses into bits of pieces on her face. She crumbles apart as the monster exclaims victory belonging to her, leaving in a crushing defeat. Although it was all her imagination, it's also revealed as Miyutaru already landed, revealing the fear he get just from watching the female mutant in a hysterical fantasy. Although Rin is glad he came back in time just to witness her. Rin questions about her identity, which apparently Miyutaru doesn't know anyone like her, although he describes her being a scorpion beforehand, which suddenly becoming a giant monster named Pochi. He described her existence solely to be a pet. As they were conversing, Pochi immediately woke up from his fantasy as she immediately exclaims that Miyutaru to not be fooled by a woman like her. Revealing Rin doesn't have any feelings for him, she asks the king to step aside and not involve himself with a woman like her. Rin doesn't seem to understand her words, looking back towards him. Surprisingly, they both couldn't seem to understand her words either. This revelation made the female mutant show an ugly and disheveled form. They all stand in silence and in a misunderstanding. After a while, the human pet female monster is being taught to pronounce words slowly by Rin and Miyutaru. As Pochi is trying to get her words out, she suddenly exclaims the word bish, pissing Rin off in confusion. Pissed off by her words, she questions who is she referring to. Pochi is suddenly seen, also angry towards her, as she was flirting with a potential king. Rin questions her words, describing Miyutaru as the king of mutants, which she explained that Miyutaru, being the only mutant who could transform to 2 stages as a king, is capable of. Rin turned towards Miyutaru, wondering what's this transformation she's describing. He looks innocent towards her question, suggesting to have a look at his transformation. Although Pochi meddles in between them, Pochi called out to Miyutaru, labeling him as king. She reminded him from this point forward that he will be entering the popular phase. As such, he shall make a decision on who will stay by his side, not choosing anyone to be his companion. Will result in a bunch of human-type mutants will come after him as of speaking, with them headed towards him. The female mutant-type humanoids will undergo transformation and achieve excellence on becoming more human-like. As such, they will use their ancient garb to lure him in, which will result his bloodline being taken. She then exclaims to be one of the king's followers they will have to be more than just a pretty face, making Rin worried. Her words made Miyutaru suddenly cracked under the anticipation as he exclaims, not choosing a woman based on her looks. Meanwhile, far in a mountain range, a group of female humanoid mutant monsters questioning Miyutaru's whereabouts. They suddenly transform, suggesting he's already in action, exclaiming to also do the same. In a nearby human settlement, a mutant alert could be heard echoing through the settlement, making sirens go off and alerting the hunters. Every hunter crowded the city streets as they look in disbelief in the sky as a large dragon mutant monster is shocked by the sudden appearance of a dragon mutant level wandering above the settlement. The mutant monster suddenly exclaims of knowing the existence of a human-type mutant around these parts. The dragon insists they speak up now if they know his whereabouts. Every hunter gathered chattering as one of them revealed seeing a mutant type asking what's their relationship to one another. The dragon reveals being a childhood friend. They explain being suddenly separated when they're kids, and recently rumors floated that he has been roaming around this human settlement. This revelation cleared up the misunderstanding and the suspense they all had. As the hunter that recently met Miyutaru pointed towards him, describing his existence beyond the ruins in the south, living in the mountains. The dragon suddenly is thankful and handed a thank you gift. The hunters thought of the dragon to be polite, removing any worries to begin with, as the dragon mutant headed to the ruins in the south. Rin and Pochi are still arguing about their qualities to one another, seeking validation towards their qualities. Pochi exclaims not giving up on Miyutaru, wanting to take any chance she could get. But as she was talking, she suddenly gets interrupted, taking a massive smack as a female dragon mutant-type monster reveals herself. Shocking Rin and Miyutaru, the female mutant suddenly approached Miyutaru, silently walking over, making him anxious by her presence. She suddenly squeezes his hands as a smile could be seen. The female dragon mutant greeted her childhood friend as it's been a long time they have seen one another. Rin is surprised as he seemed to have a childhood friend out of nowhere, although he became nervous as he doesn't know any childhood friends he could remember. Being a loner up until now, he exclaims not knowing her identity, giving him worry as the situation might escalate. The female dragon suddenly pushes the idea as they are childhood friend in her mind. The idea of being childhood friend is false, and as such she wanted to forcibly turn the thought into a reality. A force relief embedded inside of them, showcasing her craziness and psychopathic behavior, as she questions forcibly that they played a lot together. She suddenly teared up, wondering if he had forgotten all of their memories of spending time together. Rin heard this and is telling him to wake up and not be fooled by her words, pointing towards her dangerous character. The female dragon mutant suddenly showed signs of sadness, as ever since then she became more and more confident, which she suddenly ponders that he might have gotten a little bit of a hard time remembering her, which she suddenly uses her body to showcase her femininity, bouncing. Miyutaru suddenly became focused on the goal as his mind tried calming himself down, although all he could ever think about his soft watermelons. He suddenly exclaims, remembering her while thinking about boobs all the time. Rin, on the other hand, understood the situation, asking to do a brain scan right now as he seems to have his mind in the gutter. We flash back to the life of Miyutaru when he was still a kid, as he kept crying all alone by himself. While this was happening, a father could be seen holding little Ryuko-chan, describing Miyutaru becoming one of the king of mutants one day. Ryuko watched nervously as she is worried seeing him alone by himself. She insists on saving him, shaking, trying to escape, but her father shouted, stopping her as she mustn't act rashly. He growled and cracked his surroundings, asking to listen to his words. He tried composing himself, wanting to tell a story about Miyutaru. As a long time ago, when humanity is still thriving, there were first generations of mutants being used as slave by humans. Although that unfortunate reality is short-lived, as the very first mutant being the gentle soul, he evacuated a small population of humans to a cave when nuclear war broke up. The first mutant blocked the entrance with his back, protecting the people from the nuclear blast. He showed a heroic act, but shortly he perished away, turning into dust, having the other mutants to be reborn. But unbeknownst to most of them, there was a life that came from the very cave the first mutants saved the humans. Which that life is none other than small Miyutaru. Due to the uniqueness of his origins and the power of his abilities, they all decided to not intervene with his life until he developed some sense of self. Many still there are those who seek to use him, as the one being born from the heart of the founder, With this information, they all decided to make a deal on not interacting with him. Although he assured his daughter once old enough she would be able to interact with him. With this she went through a sudden transformation, living quite a good life for a while, but shortly getting tired she then remembered his existence. She ponders about the information she got as Miyutaru came from the heart of the founder. It would make him the perfect mutant. Although it has been a really long time since she saw him, she suddenly found him to be a lot more handsome than what she remembered, especially to a mutant standards. Rin on the sideline finds the atmosphere to be surprisingly nice as she seems to get left out. Rin and Pochi stared at one another as Pochi asks Rin to come with her, asking to have a drink together. She introduced Rin to a place to hang out. As they arrived inside, they took a drink together, letting out all of their frustration and feelings free, calling out to Miyutaru as a dummy. Pochi ponders about not giving up on Miyutaru, but Rin stayed silent, chugging her drinks. She suddenly overdrank, making her dizzy even though it's just juice, which Pochi finds her a bit of a pain in the ass, as she couldn't seem to hold herself. Back to Miyutaru, the two seems to get along as Ryuko suggests staying for the night, which they suddenly get interrupted as Rin came bursting at full speed, which she suddenly fought back towards Rin, but rendering her defense to be useless, she got struck and beaten in a matter of seconds, confusing Miyutaru as he couldn't believe what has happened in front of him. Rin immediately reveals not wanting to have Miyutaru be taken away, as she actually wants to be friends with him, revealing her pure feelings with him. Miyutaru exhales, silently exiting the cave wobbly. He stands near outside the cliff, questioning the god's intention. He managed to calm himself down but is shocked as Rin stands behind him, asking Miyutaru to embrace her, hug, shocking his existence and mutant cells in the process. He now questions how much is too much and how far can he get away with it. He questions if he could really go that far, wondering how far he should go. Although he is worried of making mistakes along the process, he then puts himself in a conclusion by starting off with a hug, although it seems Rin doesn't want to actually be affectionate, as her life might end due to his mutant cells running out of control. Rin tried patting him in the head, comforting him towards his mistakes, which she then suggests holding hands. He agreed as the sun rises, giving them the perfect atmosphere, but suddenly gets interrupted as Ryuko is enraged as it's his turn to hold hands with him, although Pochi suddenly reveals herself as the two faced off, fighting for Miyutaru's affection and physical touch. As they almost hold hands together, the two almost seem to clash in between them, but Rin and Miyutaru finally held hands, embracing their affection to one another. With this, Miyutaru is nervous, also shocking Rin as he now declares himself to not be a virgin anymore. Unbeknownst to him, this is now how you lose your virginity.